Okay, so get this. We're diving into the world of this guy who, if he were still around today, would be celebrating his 2000th birthday.
Wow.
Pliny the Elder.
Oh, wow.
A Roman who puts, like, Renaissance man to shame.
Yeah.
And, looking at the material you sent, he was tackling these huge topics way before the Renaissance even started.
It really is fascinating. Pliny lived almost 1,500 years before the Renaissance, but he had that same drive, to know everything, to try to understand how the world worked.
Yeah. And his masterpiece, Natural History, pretty much sums all that up, right? It's not just like birds and plants, but everything, like everything in nature, as the Romans knew it. 37 volumes. This guy wasn't messing around.
It was a totally new idea at the time.
Right.
Pliny was pulling together thousands of facts. Like, he was looking at hundreds of older writings and making what we would call an encyclopedia, I guess.
Right.
Before anyone even knew what that was.
So he wasn't just watching the world. He was gathering all this knowledge and organizing it, which is incredible in itself. But natural history wasn't just facts and figures, was it? I mean, there's got to be a deeper philosophy in there too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's this great quote from Pliny where he talks about wanting to, and I'm paraphrasing here, save the science of past ages from the forgetful indifference of the present.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's like he felt this urge, this real need to protect knowledge, to create something that would last, that would stand the test of time.
That's pretty powerful. But hold on, Pliny wasn't just like some scholar locked away in a library, right? This guy was a military commander.
Yeah.
A government official, even a lawyer. You're telling me he found time to write a whole encyclopedia on top of all that?
It's hard to believe, but his life was almost as incredible as his work. Born in Como, educated in Rome, military service in Germany, Pliny was always on the move, experiencing things, observing, and through it all, he was unbelievably dedicated to his work. He even disliked sleep and walking because they took time away from writing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of dedication, that relentless pursuit of knowledge, it really shines through in natural history, right? He wasn't just listing random facts. He clearly had a purpose, a system.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see his philosophy emerge. Pliny believed that the universe existed to benefit humankind.
Okay.
And it's a very Stoic idea.
Okay, Stoicism. Now, I'll admit my philosophy knowledge is a little rusty.
Sure.
Could you remind me what that's all about?
Well, imagine trying to live the most virtuous and reasonable life possible, always in tune with nature.
Okay.
That's Stoicism in a nutshell. You focus on what you can control and accept what you can't.
Right.
And importantly for Pliny, Stoics believe that the universe is guided by kind of a divine reason.
So they believed everything happens for a reason, like there's a bigger plan.
Yes, and that this plan was ultimately good for humanity. Pliny believed that this divine reason was like behind the abundance of resources in nature, like plants for medicine and animals for food.
Right.
As if the universe was consciously providing for our needs.
Interesting. So it's like he saw nature as this perfectly stocked pantry just waiting for humans to come along and use it. But wouldn't that kind of make humans like the center of everything? Did Pliny ever consider like other perspectives, or was he convinced we were the main event?
It's definitely a human-centric view. And it's reflected in how Pliny organized natural history. He dedicated like large sections to the practical uses of plants, animals, and minerals. He even included recipes and like instructions for making medicines and tools.
So it wasn't just about what existed, but how humans could benefit from it. He was basically creating a guidebook for how to live in and use the natural world. But from the material you sent, I know Pliny included some pretty outlandish stuff in natural history.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, if it was meant as a guidebook, how do those more fantastical elements fit in?
That's a great point, and it highlights one of the fascinating contradictions in Pliny's work. Alongside his meticulous documentation of nature's practical uses, he also included descriptions of mythical creatures.
Okay.
And seemingly impossible phenomena.
Like what? Give me like the ancient Roman version of Bigfoot.
Well, he describes the unicorn,
Okay.
a very fierce animal, he wrote, with a single black horn which projects from the middle of its forehead. And then there's the Catoblepas.
Catoblepa.
Yeah, a creature so deadly that if you look into its eyes, you die instantly.
Wait, seriously? That's both terrifying and kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
So we have this mix of what we know is scientifically sound and stuff that sounds like it's straight out of like a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile those two sides of Pliny?
It's a reminder that Pliny, for all his brilliance, was still a product of his time. He relied heavily on accounts from older sources, not always verifying their accuracy. But it also tells us something about how people viewed the world back then, this blend of observation and mythology.
That's a good point. It's easy to forget that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving. What seems obvious to us now might have been a complete mystery to someone living 2,000 years ago. It's like looking at those old maps with like sea monsters and uncharted territories. You realize how much our perspective has changed. But even with the fantastical elements, you have to admit that Pliny's dedication to like documenting everything is impressive. I mean, where do you even begin to tackle a project like natural history?
It's mind-boggling. Imagine the sheer volume of research, the countless hours spent reading, comparing, and organizing information. And he did it all while juggling, like a demanding public life.
It makes you wonder, what drove him to do it? I mean, what was the ultimate goal of natural history? Was it just to create like a comprehensive record of the natural world? Or did he have like a deeper purpose in mind?
That's a great question. And it leads us right into the heart of Pliny's philosophy. He wasn't just cataloging facts. He was trying to understand the universe's purpose. Remember that quote about saving knowledge from forgetful indifference?
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes about his motivation.
So he saw himself as like a guardian of knowledge, someone who had a duty to preserve the wisdom of the past for future generations.
Exactly. And his motivation was like deeply rooted in his Stoic beliefs. Remember the idea that the universe exists for the benefit of humankind? Pliny believed that understanding nature was crucial because it was essentially a divine gift, designed to meet our needs.
Okay, that makes sense. If you believe that the universe is like designed to support human life, then understanding how it works becomes pretty important. You need to know how to like use that gift, how to make the most of it.
Precisely. And that's what makes natural history more than just an encyclopedia. It's a testament to the power of knowledge, to the human desire to make sense of the world and our place within it.
It's incredible to think that a work written like almost 2,000 years ago could still be relevant today. In fact, you mentioned that natural history is still cited in like modern scientific papers. How is that even possible?
Well, for one thing, Pliny was an incredibly thorough researcher. He compiled a vast amount of information from, a wide variety of sources. And while some of his information is, outdated or inaccurate, much of it is surprisingly accurate.
So even though he got some things wrong, like the deadly stare, the catoblepas, he got a lot of things right.
Right.
What kind of things are modern scientists still learning from Pliny?
His observations, even if he didn't fully understand the science behind them, laid the groundwork for later scientific discoveries. For example, he was one of the first writers to describe the phenomenon of hibernation. He observed that certain animals, like bears and dormice, would sleep through the winter, a behavior that puzzled people for centuries.
It's amazing to think that something we take for granted today, like hibernation, was once a complete mystery. And Pliny, through his careful observations, helped to unlock that mystery. What other examples are there of Pliny's lasting impact on science?
Another great example is his description of bioluminescence, the ability of certain organisms to produce light.
Oh, like those glowing jellyfish.
Exactly. Pliny was among the first to document this phenomenon, describing how certain jellyfish emitted light in the dark. His observations sparked curiosity and contributed to our understanding of bioluminescence, which has become, a major area of research in modern biology and medicine.
It's mind-blowing to think that something Pliny observed all those centuries ago is still helping to advance scientific knowledge today.
It really speaks to the enduring power of observation and curiosity. Even without, the sophisticated tools we have today, Pliny was able to make observations that have had a lasting impact on our understanding of the natural world.
It makes you wonder, if he had access to all the technology we have today, what incredible discoveries would he have made?
That's a fascinating thought. Imagine Pliny with a high-powered microscope, a DNA sequencer. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But even without those tools, he managed to compile an incredible amount of knowledge, and that's what we'll be exploring further in this deep dive.
So we've got this incredible scholar, this man of action, who somehow found the time to write a 37-volume encyclopedia.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just busy work, right?
No.
He had this deeper goal of preserving knowledge, which was, shaped by his Stoic beliefs, and it makes me want to unpack those beliefs a bit more. What were some of the core tenets of Stoicism that really resonated with Pliny?
Well, one of the key principles of Stoicism is the idea of living in accordance with nature. This means, recognizing that we are part of a larger, interconnected system and striving to live in harmony with it.
That's a concept that has a lot of relevance today with, all the talk about climate change and our impact on the environment. It's like we're rediscovering this like ancient wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But how did this idea of, living in accordance with nature play out in Pliny's own life? I mean, he wasn't exactly a back to nature kind of guy, right?
True. Pliny wasn't living in a secluded cabin in the woods.
Right.
He was very active in Roman society, holding prominent positions, engaging in intellectual pursuits.
Right.
But I think his dedication to understanding the natural world through his meticulous observations and his compilation of knowledge in natural history reflects this Stoic principle in a profound way.
That's interesting. So it's not necessarily about literally living in nature, but more about understanding it, respecting it, and perhaps even learning from it.
Exactly. And for Pliny, understanding nature was about more than just appreciating its beauty or recognizing its power. He believed that the natural world held valuable lessons for human conduct and morality.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. What kind of moral lessons did Pliny see reflected in nature?
Well, one example is his fascination with bees.
Okay.
Pliny dedicated an entire section of natural history to bees, praising their industriousness, their cooperation, and their social organization.
Ah, the classic busy bee metaphor.
Yeah.
So he saw bees as a model for how humans should live and work together.
Precisely. He admired their work ethic, their sense of community, and their dedication to the common good. He even drew parallels between the structure of a beehive and the organization of a well-run society.
It's fascinating how he connected these seemingly disparate worlds, the natural world of insects and the human world of, society and morality. He was constantly drawing those connections, finding patterns and meaning in everything he observed.
That's what makes his work so compelling, I think. He wasn't just collecting facts, he was weaving them into this tapestry of knowledge that reflected his worldview, his understanding of the universe, and humanity's place within it.
And that worldview, as you've pointed out, was heavily influenced by Stoicism.
Right.
But it wasn't just bees that captured his attention, right? Didn't he also have a thing for, elephants?
Yes. Pliny was absolutely captivated by elephants. He described them as the largest of all animals and the nearest to man in intelligence. He was amazed by their strength, their size, and their social complexity.
As you're talking about elephants, I'm remembering something from the material you sent over. Pliny had some pretty interesting ideas about their moral character, didn't he?
He did. Pliny believed that elephants possessed many virtues, including honesty, wisdom, and even a sense of justice. He recounted stories of elephants showing compassion for their young, mourning their dead, and even punishing humans who had wronged them.
Wow, that's incredible.
Wow.
So he wasn't just describing elephants as physical beings. He was attributing human-like qualities to them.
Exactly. And this goes back to his Stoic belief that, humans and animals are part of the same natural order, sharing a common spark of divine reason.
Right.
He saw reflections of human morality and intelligence in the animal kingdom, blurring the lines between what we typically consider human and animal characteristics.
It's a perspective that challenges our modern-day anthropocentrism, our tendency to see ourselves as separate from and superior to the rest of, the natural world. Pliny's view was much more holistic, recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things.
I think that's one of the most valuable insights we can glean from Pliny's work. He reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, that we are part of something much larger and more complex than ourselves.
That's a powerful message, especially in today's world, where we're, grappling with the consequences of our human-centered actions. But let's shift gears a bit. We've been talking about all the things Pliny got right, or at least the insights he offered that still resonate with us today.
Right.
But we can't ignore the fact that he also got a lot of things wrong. I mean, the kid of Olympus with the death stare, come on.
Yeah, some of his entries are definitely more entertaining than informative.
Right.
But it's important to remember that Pliny was working with, the knowledge available to him at the time.
Okay, fair enough. But were all his errors just a result of, limited information? Or were some of them also influenced by his own beliefs and biases?
That's a great question. And I think the answer is both. Some of his errors were simply due to the limited scientific understanding of the time. For example, he believed that the Earth was flat, which was, a common belief in ancient Rome.
Oh, you can't blame him for that. Everyone thought the Earth was flat back then.
Wow.
But what about some of his more, outlandish claims, like the existence of unicorns and other, mythical creatures, were those just based on, like, hearsay? Or did his worldview play a role in shaping those beliefs?
It's definitely a mix. Pliny was heavily influenced by ancient Greek and Roman mythology, which was, deeply ingrained in Roman culture. These myths often served to explain natural phenomena or to illustrate moral lessons.
So the line between, like, myth and reality was a bit blurrier back then.
Absolutely. And Pliny's work reflects that, that blurring of lines. He often intertwined factual observations with, like, mythical elements, creating a unique blend of science and storytelling.
It's like he was trying to create a complete picture of the world, drawing on all available sources, whether they were based on, like, empirical evidence or ancient legends.
Exactly. And that's what makes his work so fascinating. It's a snapshot of, like, a particular moment in time, a time when the boundaries of knowledge were still being defined and when mythology and science often coexisted.
As you're talking, I'm struck by the fact that Pliny was essentially doing what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Exploring, questioning, trying to make sense of the world.
That's a great observation. And it speaks to the enduring human impulse to understand our place in the universe, to grapple with the mysteries of nature and to seek meaning in the world around us.
It makes me wonder, if Pliny were alive today, what would he think of our modern world? Would he be amazed by our scientific advancements? Or would he be, like, disappointed by our disconnect from, the natural world?
That's a fascinating question. I imagine he would be, like, both awestruck by our technological progress and dismayed by our environmental challenges.
I can just picture him scrolling through the internet, reading scientific journals, watching documentaries, and then shaking his head at, like, the news reports about climate change and deforestation.
I think you're right. He would be both excited by the possibilities of modern science and deeply concerned about the choices, that we're making as a species.
But I bet he would still be driven by that same insatiable curiosity, that same desire to, like, understand the world and share that knowledge with others.
Absolutely. I think Pliny's spirit of inquiry, his dedication to knowledge, and his passion for the natural world would transcend time and place.
Well, speaking of time, I think we're running out of it for this segment.
Okay.
But our deep dive into Pliny's worlds isn't over yet.
Right.
There's still so much to explore, including his remarkable life story and the lasting legacy of his work. As we've been talking about Pliny, I keep coming back to this image of him as, like, a time traveler. Imagine him stepping into our world today with, all our scientific advancements and technological wonders. What do you think he'd make of it all?
It is a truly tantalizing thought. Can you imagine Pliny with access to the internet?
Right.
To high-powered telescopes, to
Yeah.
microscopes that can reveal the intricate workings of, like, cells? His mind would be blown.
I know he'd probably be spending all his time in online research databases and science labs just soaking up all the knowledge.
I think so, yeah.
But I also imagine him being, like, a bit overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information available today.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember, he lived in a time when knowledge was carefully curated and meticulously copied by hand.
Right.
The concept of, like, instant access to a vast library of information would be almost incomprehensible.
You really would.
But I think Pliny would also be struck by the way we've kind of compartmentalized knowledge, separating it into these distinct disciplines like biology, chemistry, physics.
Yeah.
Remember, he saw the world as, like, an interconnected whole.
Yeah. Absolutely. Pliny's natural history encompassed everything from, like, astronomy and cosmology to zoology and botany, from medicine and mineralogy to art and history. He wouldn't recognize, like, our modern academic boundaries at all.
No. He'd probably be advocating for a more, like, interdisciplinary approach to knowledge, encouraging scientists to, look for connections and patterns across different fields.
I think you're right. He'd be reminding us that the universe, doesn't operate in silos, that everything is interconnected.
It makes you wonder what kind of discoveries we could make if we adopted a more Plinian approach to science, embracing the interconnectedness of knowledge.
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
But even as we imagine Pliny in our modern world, it's important to remember the historical context, in which he lived and worked.
Right.
His natural history may contain errors and reflect beliefs we now consider outdated, but it's a valuable window into the scientific understanding of his time.
It's like the time capsule of ancient knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It gives us a glimpse into how people viewed the world, like almost 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And by understanding those past perspectives, we can gain a deeper appreciation for how far we've come, in our understanding of the natural world.
Exactly. And it also allows us to see, like, the continuity of human curiosity, the enduring drive to explore, to question, to make sense of the world around us. Pliny's work reminds us that, we are part of a long lineage of knowledge seekers, each generation building upon the discoveries of those who came before.
And sometimes those discoveries come from the most unexpected places. I mean, who would have thought that a Roman encyclopedia filled with, tales of unicorns and catable passes could still be relevant to modern science?
It's a testament to the enduring power of observation and the importance of preserving knowledge, even if it seems, fantastical or flawed by modern standards. Who knows what insights future generations might glean from our own scientific endeavors, even the ones that might seem outlandish or misguided in hindsight.
That's a great point. It makes me wonder, what will people be saying about our scientific understanding, 2,000 years from now?
Oh,
Will
wow.
they be chuckling at our theories about, like, dark matter and string theory?
Yeah.
Or will they be building upon our discoveries, pushing the boundaries of knowledge even further?
Only time will tell. But I hope they will recognize our efforts, our curiosity, and our dedication to understanding the universe, just as we, recognize Pliny's efforts today.
Well said. Well, dear listener, we've reached the end of our deep dives into the world of Pliny the Elder. I hope this journey through time has sparked your own curiosity and given you a newfound appreciation for this remarkable Roman figure. But, as we've learned from Pliny himself, the pursuit of knowledge is a never-ending adventure. So I encourage you to, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking those aha moments that make learning such a rewarding experience.